On our broadcast tonight, fasten your seatbelt. This is why pilots say it all the time. What happened at 36,000 feet to cause so many injuries? Why it could happen to just about any flight in the sky. Raking it in and paying it out. Cash for clunkers is going over big, but will it have enough funding to keep going? Closing time for post offices across this country. It's a big change. Could yours be on the list? And your children's health in the news tonight, what kids aren't getting enough of and the risk that schools are already preparing for. Also tonight, is it summer yet? Can you blame any folks for asking? Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. It is called clear air turbulence for a good reason. It's why the captain always says we ask that you keep your seatbelts fastened at all times. And in the early morning hours, it struck a continental flight from Brazil to Texas. At least 26 people were injured, 4 of them seriously. And it's safe to say that for a while there, as the plane fell thousands of feet vertically, pinning some passengers against the roof of the aircraft, everyone on that aircraft thought it was the end. We begin tonight with this phenomenon that can strike virtually any time, any flight. NBC's Kerry Sanders in Miami for us tonight. Kerry, good evening.
Well, good evening, Brian. Passengers on board say most were asleep or just beginning to wake up when, without warning, the plane jerked up and then fell, throwing the passengers from their seats. It's now believed this was likely a case of the jet hitting a huge pocket of what's known as clear air turbulence. The Boeing 767 was en route to Houston when it diverted and made an emergency landing in Miami this morning. On board the Continental flight, 168 passengers, 11 crew. At least 14 travelers were thrown so forcefully they had to be hospitalized.
I really thought we wouldn't make it.
Witnesses say some passengers shot out of their seats like missiles. Paramedics say it appears they weren't wearing their seatbelts.
I didn't have my seatbelt on, and I flew up and I hit my head on the roof of the ceiling. And then I fell down and I hit it on the monitor in front of me.
Continental Flight 128 was more than 6 hours into its flight from Rio de Janeiro, about 60 miles north of the Dominican Republic, at 36,000 feet and climbing, when passengers say without warning, the plane violently jolted up and then dropped, and then another violent jolt and another drop.
Terrible. She said she thought she was going to die.
Photos taken on board by one passenger show how, in some cases, heads smashed into the ceiling, breaking the plastic. The most seriously injured was seated in the aisle seats towards the back of the plane. Laurent Below is a regular flyer who says he's been through turbulence before, but nothing like this.
Most of the time, it's long and soft, and then you're very afraid. And here it was very short and very strong.
Investigators believe the jet may have hit what's called clear air turbulence. Clear air because it's unlike a cloud, which can tip off a pilot. There are bumps ahead.
What it is essentially are very strong wind shifts within a very small area, and those wind shifts are either vertically or horizontally, but you certainly feel them.
At the National Center on Atmospheric Research, scientists are working on a system to predict clear air turbulence.
It's very difficult to forecast turbulence, especially convective turbulence, because there's very little data in the regions where these aircraft are flying out over the oceans.
The NTSB is now looking into this incident. They've pulled the plane's boxes, the black boxes, and they're going to be sent to Washington for further analysis. Brian?
Kerry Sanders starting us off from Miami tonight. Kerry, thanks. Across the country these past few days, there is something new in a whole lot of car dealerships. A lot of people coming in to buy new cars as part of the government's Cash for Clunkers program. And good news, bad news, it is helping the automakers' bottom line, but the funds may be about to run out. CNBC's Phil LeBeau is with us from a Ford dealership in Countryside, Illinois. Phil, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Today, the auto industry posted its best sales since last September, and that's largely due to the Cash for Clunkers program. So far, more than 120,000 people have traded in old gas guzzlers like this for smaller, new, fuel-efficient models, often small cars. But tonight, there's a question in Washington about whether or not the Cash for Clunkers program is running out of gas. At dealerships around the country, they're rushing to make a deal.
Oh, it's beautiful.
For Marilyn Scallon,
your cruise controls right here.
A $4,500 rebate from the federal government helped her buy a Ford Escape that gets 25 miles per gallon and replace her worn-out '86 van that got 10 miles a gallon.
Everybody was going so fast buying the cars, so I said we better go over, and we did. We came last Friday, and luckily we got in under the gun.
The popularity of cash for clunkers helped GM and Chrysler post smaller than expected sales declines in July, while Ford increased monthly sales for the first time in nearly 2 years.
We were off to a pretty good start this month, but sales really elevated as soon as the program became official a week ago Friday. That's what put us over the top.
With cash for clunkers just a few days from running out of its $1 billion in federal funding, the Obama administration and House of Representatives have earmarked another $2 billion to keep the program going.
We're encouraging senators to listen to their car dealers and to the people they represent. If they do that, we believe this will pass the Senate.
The Republican leader.
But Senate Republicans are questioning if handing out more rebates for car buyers is a smart move.
It ran out of money in a week, prompting the House to rush a $2 billion extension before anybody even had time to figure out what happened with the first billion.
Those fighting an extension of the clunker program could face backlash from automakers planning to ramp up production to keep up with sales, and from dealers who finally have busy showrooms after a long and painful slump.
The momentum's there. If they stop it, it's not going to be the same when it comes back out.
People thinking about trading in their clunker better hurry up. As long as they have the new contract for buying a new vehicle written before the money runs out, the deal will go through with the federal rebate. Brian?
Phil LeBeau on the lot for us tonight in Illinois. Phil, thanks.